Hello, everyone, and welcome to another losing episode of the Giant Take podcast. An expected losing episode to a 7-2 team now in the Washington Commanders, who have dominated the NFC East so far this year, and truthfully, the NFL behind starting rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels, who successfully runs his way and passes his way through the New York Giants today. Um, Alex, I don't really know how you kind of want to navigate this. We can do our normal flow of things, but first of all, after another loss in this crushing season that the team has had so far, how are you doing? I'll start
I
with
think
that.
the word you're looking for is demoralizing, Josh, and that's the best way to put it. And it's tough right now to put words to it and to go through it and to watch this team. And each week just seems to blend together into another hot mess of a team that just cannot put all three phases of the ball together and cannot seem to win football games. And I think it's as simple as that. And I don't know. I guess we can navigate it offense, defense. But, the real issue here is the Giants aren't able to move the ball well enough on offense. It's the same story all year long. And the Giants defense wasn't able to make the key stops when they needed to stop Jaden Daniels, who really looked just as well as or just as good as he's been this entire season. And he looks like a really bright up and coming star in the National Football League. And it's just the way it is, and the Giants don't have the firepower at QB to compete against teams that have the quarterback power like a Jaden Daniels or like a Josh Allen or like a Patrick Mahomes. Not that I'm putting him in the category of those two guys just yet, but it's tough when your quarterback just cannot compete with some of those guys at the next level.
Yeah, Alex. I mean, well, we can talk about them, the Giants' defense for sure, and their containment or lack thereof, I
Lack
guess, of the
thereof.
Washington
Yeah.
Commanders in this game. But first, we'll go in order of how we normally do offense to defense. And I'm starting off with offense, giving praise, which is something I don't really do often for this team on offense. But I do it today because Daniel Jones was fine today. Like, he was pretty good, besides one error that we can definitely get to. 20 for 26 passing the ball, 174 yards and 2 touchdowns. It was very clear that Brian Daboll was going to be run heavy in this game. He really showed that in the beginning of this game and continued it throughout the entire game, having Tyrone Tracy and Devin Singletary run the ball a ton, having Daniel Jones also running the ball and successfully doing so. That might have been the most riled up I've ever seen Daniel Jones after a touchdown, Alex. So the latest one that he got. Stiff armed a couple of players, got into the end zone, and that was the feistiness that I would like to see more out of Daniel Jones if he was just consistent with his play. Some Giants fans got mad at me on Twitter because I was saying, Daniel Jones, Brian Daboll is having Daniel Jones run the ball more. Is this just because he's trying to diversify the playbook and remember that Daniel Jones can run, or is it because he doesn't want his quarterback to throw the ball? He did end up having to throw the ball later in the game because in the second half, the Commanders definitely made that adjustment on defense to really pound the running game and definitely forced Tyrone Tracy to have some really tough runs. And you saw the Giants pass the ball a lot more than they did in the first half. I mean, that first half, that was setting history. The Giants had -8 passing yards, I believe, at halftime. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was like the first time ever that a team has gone a half without positive passing yards. I could be wrong. Let me
I mean, I
double
can't
check.
remember a time seeing that, so it wouldn't be surprising to me. But yeah, they couldn't get the passing game going whatsoever, and
I got it.
yeah, crazy.
Daniel Jones, first player since at least 2000 to having passing touchdown and 0 passing yards and a half. That was the stat from Jordan Ron on ESPN stats for that one. So that was Daniel Jones. Ran the ball a little bit as well. Like I said, 7 rush, 54 yards and a TD. So, I mean, solid game from Daniel Jones today. However, just kind of like you were saying, Alex, I mean, they were trailing the entire time against the Commanders, really never able to cement anything. I have a couple of Commanders fans that I'm friends with here at school. And they were, I kind of texted them. I was like, wow, you guys are, all you do is talk. We lost only, won by 5 against the poverty Giants. What's going on? They were like, come on, we dominated the whole game. You know that. And I do. I mean, they definitely did. So it was really a matter of like, yes, the offense did show something, but I feel like at that point it was too little too late, right? Commanders went into halftime, I believe, up 21-7. So they kind of already had an edge up on the Giants, a leg up, and they were not really able to close that gap. And that, it should have been a 12-point win if the Commanders didn't take that knee. So
yeah. And the Giants don't have the firepower to go into the second half down 2 touchdowns. They just cannot overcome a deficit like that, especially against a team that is going to score more in the second half. And it just wasn't a possibility that they were going to be able to claw all the way back and make up that deficit. And that's the real problem, especially considering they couldn't get anything going through the passing game. They obviously did succeed a little bit more in the second half than they did in the first with that aspect of the ball. But it was still a very, very slow moving process. And, I like you said, Josh, I'll reemphasize Daniel Jones wasn't terrible today. He wasn't amazing, but he was average. He was fine. And he managed to make a couple of plays. And some of the passes that were dropped by guys like Theo Johnson or even Malik Neighbors on one occasion weren't bad. And there were some individual mistakes from some of his receivers that definitely held down his stat line a little bit. So all in all, not a terrible performance from him. And it was a lot of just little stupid mistakes that the Giants just couldn't kind of keep going on offense. And the tempo wasn't there at certain times. The tempo was too fast at other times. And it just seemed like it was kind of a weird game that the Giants almost came into it feeling like they had no chance of winning. That was like the vibe I got from the very first snap. And I think that kind of ended up being what happened, that no matter how hard they clawed, no matter how hard they tried, they just weren't going to be able to get over a team like the Commanders, who have so much talent on the offensive side of the ball and are so well coached as well, with Dan Quinn and then Cliff Kingsbury on the offensive side. So, they ran the ball effectively. Tyrone Tracy, 66 yards on 16 carries. Singletary, 33 yards on 7 carries. Jones, 54 yards on 7 carries as well. So, the running game was efficient, but then you look at Malik Neighbors' stat line, 59 yards, yes, but 9 receptions, just under 7 yards a reception. So nothing really going past the sticks for the Giants when it came to the passing game. Theo Johnson obviously had that big play towards the end of the game. He had 3 catches for 51 yards. But besides that, they really could not get much going on offense, and the receiving numbers really show that.
And it was just like odd. There were just some odd moments in this game. Jude McTominay being the kicker for the Giants, coming out of Europe and coming into New York and playing, football just, right off the bat is pretty interesting. Having to come in for the injured Greg Joseph today, almost missing a field goal in there. But besides the point with him, I know we do special teams at the same time. I mean, he did make that one field goal. That was the only field goal that was needed from him. Although it almost missed, he nailed it for what it was. We got the 3 points. But because of that, that happened due to the touchdown that should have been. But instead it wasn't, because of a Darius Slayton sort of, blocking pick, whatever you want to call it, called as a flag as offensive pass interference, which I really think was a weak call and it shouldn't have been called. And I think that the referees were a little odd today. I think that first play as well, where the whole whistle was blown dead before the play with the DJ fumble, return for a touchdown. And then it's like, well, we should be happy because they blew it dead, because it would have been a touchdown for the Commanders. The whole thing was just really odd. The entire sequence was odd. But that is something, Alex, that if we do bring up Daniel Jones, that was a mistake that he did make today. And the thing is, Giants fans who are defending Jones for that are saying, well, he was, that's not his fault, because obviously we should have a quality left tackle that gives him, and the running back should make a block, and he should have more than 2 seconds to release the ball. You are correct. He should. But as a quarterback, when you're getting blitzed like that and you have less than 2 seconds, you take the sack. You don't look in the nick of time and be like, all right, and you throw it and you you release it and get it out. That's not what you do, because then stuff like that happens and you fumble the ball away. So that was just another sort of veteran error that we keep on seeing from Daniel Jones that we shouldn't be seeing from Daniel Jones. Like, why are you doing that? Why are you trying to get the ball out that quick in time to gain yards? Of course, I know, but you got to just eat the sack there and call it a day, and you move on to the next play. I believe that was the first down, if I'm not mistaken. Like, just move on to second down. So that was definitely an error we saw from Jones today that we've, seen before. It's just really a lackluster knowledge of, I feel like, everyday thinking as a football player, or especially as a quarterback. You just got to eat a sack. And he didn't do that. And the Giants, by the way, on that first drive, could have cemented a lot of momentum. They were driving, rushing the ball down the field in that drive. They were really playing well. It was first down after first down after first down, like 3 first downs in a row on 3 plays in a row. And then that momentum completely halted in what could have been a tie game. To then the Commanders grab the ball. I don't remember if they scored in that drive or not, but regardless, it really halted whatever the Giants had and really stalled it until they were able to get up on the board later in the quarter.
Yeah. I'd say to finish it up, offensive line, they were able to run the ball effectively, like you mentioned, Josh, and overall protection in the passing game wasn't too bad either. And I thought Jermaine Illuminor, he had a rough one last week, and he really, I think, turned it on in this one. He was a guy I was kind of watching to see would he bounce back a little bit here against the Commanders, and I thought he was very solid, had a couple of really nice run blocks as well. So just wanted to note him. But besides that, offensive line was, average, make of what you will, I guess you can say. But there's not much going on there. And the offense, there's just not a whole lot to talk about because they just really couldn't move the ball. And there was nothing really specifically holding them back, but there wasn't anything really pushing them forward. And
they scored touchdowns.
They scored touchdowns. There wasn't anything notable, I feel like, to really talk about here with them. But I think
that's notable, unfortunately, is that they score touchdowns, Alex, because that's not something we see from this Giants offense, especially this season. Chris Manhertz gets on the board for his 3rd receiving touchdown of his entire career, first time since 2018. There you go. Daniel Jones gets his first touchdown at home since 2023. I think it was since December of 2023. That's notable. And it really sucks to say it, but as a 2-7 team right now, touchdowns getting scored from your offense is notable. That's a big deal for us.
Yeah, 20 or more points too. So
20 or more points. And I'm not saying it's like a notable as in like, oh my God, like this team did it, like let's go. I'm just saying like it's notable in a bad way, in a laughing way, in an embarrassment sort of way that I'm not even celebrating it. I would say we're recognizing it as this was
we're just stating it.
A thing that happened today that does not normally happen. It is a surprise that the Giants scored 22 points in this game today. And that is sad. That's really sad. That's embarrassing. That shouldn't be what you're saying. 20 points should be a norm in this modern style, offensive, heavy, dominated league that we're in the 2024 NFL. I think we leave it at that. And I think what we'll do right now is we'll take a quick break and we'll come back and we'll talk about the Giants defense.
Tough game, competitive game. In the end, just didn't make enough plays to get the outcome we want. Gave up some big plays there right before the 2-minute at the end of the half, and those are game-changing plays that we need to make.
All right, getting back into it with the Giants defense, I'd say this was probably their worst performance of the season. They did not, do anything particularly meaningful. They didn't, make any splash plays on the defensive side of the ball. And Jayden Daniels kind of just ran all over them. And that was the main issue for the Giants and Austin Eckler and Rodriguez as well. They were just not able to stop the run, especially in the critical fourth quarter. And in the passing game as well, just our DBs not able to keep up with their receivers. And overall, just a pretty weak performance from this Giants defense and not enough pressure that was needed on Jayden Daniels. Dexter Lawrence not able to get as involved. Brian Burns, Azeez Ojulari, just not as involved, not as impactful as they have been in previous games. And, with that being said, the Giants were unable to really stop the Commanders when they were getting on a roll on offense. And, once they started getting a couple of first downs, there was no stopping them and they were getting a touchdown. Once they crossed the 50-yard line, you basically knew it at that point. So not great from the Giants defense, but in a game that was pretty mediocre, I guess not that much more could have been expected given the lack of production on the offensive side of the ball as well.
Alex, I mean, you're talking about not being able to apply pressure. You're exactly right, because the Giants didn't register a single sack in this game against
Yeah,
the Washington
bad.
Commanders. Not only did they not get a single sack, there were only 3 tackles for loss behind the line of scrimmage for this team in this game. There were only two pass deflections in this game. Only 2 times the quarterback was hit in this game by the New York Giants.
They were blitzing
And
a ton too.
we talked
They didn't
about
get
it
home
during the game on that play where Jaden Daniels scrambles out on a 4th and 1 conversion in the red zone, where you can only do so much. Bobby Okereke picks up the running back out of the backfield. All the receivers are covered, but it leaves one man open, and Jaden Daniels just scramble out for 5 yards to the right and get the first down and step out of bounds. The guy is, we said it, Alex, the Giants defense is not made right now to not only cover the running backs and the receivers, along with a mobile quarterback. The Giants play a team like this team. The Giants play a team like the Chiefs. The Giants play a team like the Ravens. They're not going to be able to contain quarterbacks that can scramble. And we really saw that today with Jaden Daniels. You said he ran all over us. He did in the way he had a lot of, scrambles outside, but only for 35 yards in total. It was 8 rushes outside for 35 yards. So it seems like more than it was, but it was more, I think, the necessity of when the Commanders needed him and the importance of when they needed him, because it was on those really close, really down to the wire, like 4th and 1s, 3rd and 3s, whatever it would be there. He just always made it happen when it seemed like everything was going to go right and we were going to be able to get that stop. We didn't, because Jaden Daniels would scramble out and get that first down for the Commanders. Along with that, I know you're going to want to mention him. I'm surprised you didn't in that opening statement. The unfortunate second touchdown specifically that was given up by Deonte Banks was really tough coverage in a bad way, like not good, like poor coverage by Deonte Banks, who's we're relying on to be our number 1 wide receiver. And although Terry McLaurin, and I do again want to point this out, only had 2 catches in this game, both those catches were for touchdowns. Now, the first one was a quick slant. There's not really much you can do about that. That wide receiver makes that first turn to the right. You're already a step behind, and that's especially with a guy against Terry McLaurin, who's the number 1 wide receiver on a team in the NFL. He's going to win that first step every time. A lot of receivers are going to win that first step, unless you're one of the slowest guys on the field, you're going to win a first step in a 3-yard slant to the right. Okay, so that's the first touchdown. Fine. That second one, that catch right on the end zone on the left side, that I got to see better coverage out of my number 1, my number 1 cornerback, excuse me. Like that's got to be a little bit more locked down than what we saw from Deonte Banks in that position. To allow a little bit of trash talk after, not even allow it. There was a little bit of trash talk from Terry McLaurin after it. That's just basically disappointing, Alex, to say the least. I think I'll let you get to it because I know you have something to say on it as well. But just this season overall, it's been an issue for Deonte Banks just in general, whether it's the poor effort that we're seeing on the field or the unfortunate and uneventful coverage. That's really what it's been. The guy just has not brought what we would assume and what we would want out of a number 1 cornerback, which we drafted in the first round to have last year.
Yeah, and I think the main issue, as you mentioned, right, it's only 2 catches for Terry McLaurin, but 2 critical catches, 2 touchdown catches. And when you're in that part of the field, you need to be laser focused. And, it's great if you're locked in 99% of the snaps, but if that one snap is in the red zone, that you are, you're not paying attention or you're not fully locked in as you were on every other snap, you might as well not be playing well throughout the rest of the game either, because here you are, you played good coverage all the way down the field. They've managed to get all the way down the field. And if you're just going to give up in soft coverage there, against Terry McLaurin, there's no point of even covering all the way down the field, to be honest. And that's kind of the way I look at it. And, obviously when you're in those critical moments, you're against these elite receivers. It's obviously really, really tough to cover them. But, Deonte Banks, I still feel a little bit of a lack of effort in certain critical moments. And that's the main driver, the main kicker for me that's been so disappointing. And his general coverage has not been bad. I will say, as much as I've been, really coming down on him recently about this, about some of the issues he's been facing, he's been decent. It's just he's switched off in really key points. And that's something that's just not sustainable when you're playing against the top talent in the National Football League.
I mean, that's really all I have on the defense, Alex. I think that, we now sit with this Giants team at 2-7, going to face another 2-7 franchise in shambles in the Carolina Panthers. And
got to win today, though, Josh.
Yeah, they did. But they're still 2-7. So
fair.
They are still 2-7, and they are going to, I guess, bless Germany with their presence. I'm sorry for that.
Munich.
I'm sorry this is the game that they have to host. I mean, yeah, what a scene. The NFL in Germany. Here's two franchises that are the worst in the NFL. Here you go, guys. Yeah. So they're going to go, across to Europe next Sunday for a 9:30 kickoff in Munich. And it'll be a battle for sure. I mean, if there's a game that the Giants want to win this season, I would say this would be one of them. And I'm looking towards the rest of the schedule. And I'm not saying they're going to buy back in because the season's done. We know that. There's no hope left. But there is a stretch here of 4 games in a row. Quite frankly, there's 4 games in a row that if the Giants win, I wouldn't be surprised if they win any of them. We have Panthers, a bye week, Buccaneers, Cowboys, Saints.
Yeah, Buccaneers will be tough. Depending on if Mike Evans is back, of course, that's a big factor for them. But they're still a good team with Baker Mayfield. Cowboys are terrible. The Saints are terrible. And the Panthers are awful. So, yeah.
But I still wouldn't be surprised if they beat the Bucs.
I wouldn't either. Especially with no Mike
I think
Evans,
it's the toughest out of those 4, for sure, out of the stretch. But, you win against the Panthers. You get a week off the next week. And then you're back for the Buccaneers game before a quick turnaround on Thanksgiving football. We get to, again, enjoy Thanksgiving.
We need a win.
We
need a win against the Cowboys. I don't care if we lose the other 3 games. I need a win against the Cowboys.
Especially with all of when you're around your family on Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah.
You need that to happen. It just makes the night either so much better, and if they lose, so much worse. It makes it so much worse. It doesn't make Thanksgiving dinner enjoyable.
Yeah. Tough. Yeah. You've got Cowboys family, Josh, so it's a little worse for you. But...
Yes, my uncle is a Cowboys fan, so that makes it even 10 times worse.
Yeah, I don't have that at least, but it is what it is.
Well, we'll leave you with this. The Giants lose another game, an unsurprising loss, but a surprising turnout of point totals in this game and scores for the Giants offense. So I guess we leave you with a little bit of a positive taste. I guess a 5-point loss to the Washington Commanders. We take that ? I don't know. We leave it unanswered. We leave it unanswered for you. That's all I got here. We appreciate you listening and or watching this episode of the Giant Take Podcast. If you like the content, if you made it all the way this far, might as well subscribe on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or right here on YouTube. Drop that like button, and we'll be here. We'll be here covering this poverty organization.
I don't know why we'll be here, but we will be there.
Oh, we will be there. We will be there for sure. Panthers game, gonna be the most heightened, epic preview you've ever heard.
Yeah,
for sure.
Of course.
Coming up in the next few days. But Alex, I mean, there's not much else to say. Team's 2-7.
Yeah, not much else to say, but hopefully everyone has a great week despite this Giants loss and is ready to wake up early on Sunday to watch another Giants performance against the Panthers. And for some reason, like you mentioned, Josh, we'll be back previewing it later this week. So make sure to stay tuned. But thank you again, and we'll see you all next time. Peace.